Big Value, Big Business Podcast, episode 24.
Welcome to the Big Value, Big Business Podcast with James Lynch, where we talk with today's most successful marketing minds about getting the right message in front of the right people and getting the right people to become your customers for life. And now, your host, James Lynch.
All right, welcome back, my friends, to yet another edition of the Big Value, Big Business Podcast. I am your host, James Lynch. I am really big time, super excited about my special guest today. Her name is Mimika Cooney. Mimika is a South African-born international award-winning photographer. She's the creator and host of Mimika TV. She's a published author, speaker, and a small business marketing expert. Mimika enjoys sharing her business marketing and photography knowledge both online and at workshops to other professional photographers and small business owners. It is a pleasure to welcome Mimika to the Big Value, Big Business Podcast today. Mimika, how are you today?
Hi, James. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited.
I know, and I'm excited to have you. How's everything going?
We are good. As we said, we were chatting earlier. I got myself all looking all pretty for you, but of course, this is for radio, so you can just imagine I have my pretty lipstick on.
Will do, and that's a visual for all of our listeners. That's cool. Very pretty lady. Awesome. Hey, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I'm really excited for you to share with our listeners, everything that you can in the time allowed about how we can discover our true brand and how we can develop and implement a magnetic marketing strategy that will help boost our sales and take our businesses to new heights. Does that sound like a plan?
It does. Now, that definitely hits right on the money with what we like to aim for, right?
Cool. Absolutely. So if we could maybe just get a little history. I know we all hear the accent, and I did mention you come from South Africa. So tell us about, Mimika, where she came from, a little bit about, where your journey and what brought you here to where you are today.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm South African born. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, and I met and married my childhood sweetheart. And together we actually started delving into the internet marketing industry when it first hit South Africa in 95. Now, I remember designing websites in Front Page that would look good on Netscape. So that is that ages me right there. But the fun thing is, both my husband and I were just fascinated with this whole internet and how, online marketing and, how you actually reach businesses. So both him and I worked together for about 6-7 years developing our online business. And we did everything from web design. I did a lot of PR, dealt with clients, even cold call selling. Ew. And, then from there we developed a business. And my husband, we had the opportunity to move to England. So when we had 1.5 kids, I was pregnant at the time, we moved to England. And my mom and my sister lived there. So I have a Greek dad, English mom, born in South Africa. We're complete fruit salads.
Cool.
So we set up shop again in England and got into doing business there. And then that's when I fell in love with photography as a hobby, and then eventually wanted to make it my career. So I've always sort of been delving in internet marketing, and I've always loved marketing, telling stories, finding out what fascinates people, what makes people tick, how to reach people. And then, of course, with photography, it became a visual medium. And I've been a professional photographer going on 11 years now. And now at this moment, I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina in the US. So we've kind of gone like a good round trip, covered the continents in the last sort of 15 years. And here we are today.
Awesome. And you're still raising a family. Your family is still growing.
Yes, I have a 15, a 13, and a 3-year-old. So I keep myself busy.
God bless you. That's awesome. So you've done internet marketing, and then you branched off into photography. It looks like you kind of made your living in the photography world there for a while, always keeping your hand in the internet marketing space and kind of just using that to drive your business. So you've got a new project, and we're really anxious to hear about, Earn More by Working Smarter, your school for creatives, the Capture School. Could you tell us what's going on with that?
Yes, well, I've always loved learning. I have like a ton of books. I have 6 of them on my bedside table. I'm reading at different times. And for me, I always love to look at other industries, in order to help what I'm doing. So, for instance, when I was in internet marketing and I wanted to become a professional photographer, I took all those skills in order to promote myself and to, get brand awareness in the new areas we were moving into. And so over the years, I've sort of honed my skills. Of course, having my husband who's an internet marketer, I always get some advice for free. Just need to bat my eyelids and he helps. So that's always been fun. But I've always had a passion for teaching and helping others grow. So for me, I always felt like there was something bigger I was meant to do with what I've done in my life. And I'm really excited in order to help other entrepreneurs and creatives, because I'm sure you can tell a lot of us creatives suffer from a bit of ADD. We can't focus very well on longer tasks. And sometimes I find there's a lot of things out there that made it hard to, implement into business, especially when it comes from a creative side, because you want to make it easy to implement, easy to learn. So I've taken all my years of experience in photography, in visual marketing, online marketing, and I've now created the school, particularly for creatives. So really, the whole niche is the one-man person or one-woman show who, or even, small business who doesn't have a lot of resources but needs to know the shortcuts. Because believe me, I've made so many mistakes that cost me, thousands and thousands of dollars. And I've paid for like close to $30,000 worth of coaching and training over the years, that I feel, if I could help someone else leapfrog my mistakes, all the better, getting someone ahead in their business.
Absolutely. So that's what the Capture School. So explain to me just what that means, Capture School. How did you come up with that name?
That is a funny question, because I always wanted to do something online, and I felt, I do a lot of workshops in person, but being a mom with 3 kids and my youngest is still in preschool, I can't travel a lot. So for me, I kind of felt it made more sense to put everything that I know into an online format, because a lot of my students that learned from me are also moms and work part-time and trying to run a household. Traveling is an issue as well as time. So for me, I'm always about how can I make things, work smarter and get more done in less time. And the whole structure of the whole school is going to be online learning. So it'll be video and audio downloads as well as a worksheet. So it's a system I've put together that I've developed that I feel, certain points that need to be met in order to create almost like your own business model. Because you mentioned, create a business plan, and most creatives get hives. It's like, oh gosh, don't make me have to think like that. So it's an intuitive process. And of course, it's very community driven. I love to have other people's input, and there's a private Facebook group as well, where creating that sense of community and accountability. So it's like an online forum for busy entrepreneurs.
Yeah, to exchange and help each other out, and you're there as well, coaching along the way, correct?
Yeah. Yes, so it's kind of like combining, online learning with a coaching model, as well as you also mentioned earlier, every week I put out a web show called Mimika TV. And how that developed is, I've always been interested in how other people have made their success, because, it takes years to become an overnight success, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, I just wanted to know, I'm really, being South African, I'm straight down the line. I don't sugarcoat anything. I get straight to, cut to the chase. So with my interviews, I love to interview other creatives who have either been in a while, who've created something of value, and who've, developed something that can help other people. And what I discovered along the way, there's this whole thread of, people really need to get the business down. You can be a great photographer, you can be a great craftsman, unless you know the elements and the fundamentals of business. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you would struggle, because, classic example is the starving artist syndrome.
Sure. And,
part of my mission is to eradicate that and to help the artists really lift their game in terms of the business side.
I love that. I love that. And speaking of artists and creative, you've written a book, and you have a second one in the queue?
Yes. So what I've done, my first book was called Boutique Baby Photography. And really what I did is I took the whole structure of how I've run my business over the last sort of 6-7 years. And in photography, I've run the gamut. I've done weddings and families and babies and children. And I find I really love, the creativity that was involved with doing newborns and babies. So, and the system that I developed in running my studio, I put into this book. And coming up this fall is the second edition, which is more specific just to newborn photographers, and that takes them right through, branding, business, pricing, lighting. It's really would be like my business system in a box.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and you'll have to let us know when that title, Newborn Photography, comes out, so we can help you push that too.
Yes, that'll be September 4th. It's actually available on Amazon right now for pre-orders. But yeah, our official published date is September 4th, so that'll be fun.
Awesome, and I'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well, so people
Perfect.
can click through. And so, is there a pre-order?
Yes, you can actually place a pre-order. So yeah, if you're interested, you can have a look, and you can also just search for the other book. And there's a lot of information. And even though it's about photographers, sometimes I think a lot of it can be taken from a business perspective, that even people who aren't photographers who find the business side that I talk about very useful, which is why I've branched out into making the capture school. And, going back to what you asked me earlier was, why the word capture? And for me, it was all about, it's not just about the photography, but it's about, capturing people's imaginations, capturing people's dreams, helping them really take ownership of what it is that they want to achieve in their businesses. So, yeah, that's pretty much where that came from.
Awesome. Yeah, and you touched on it, and actually we talked before we actually got on the podcast about there's you can pick up something from, especially when you're giving you're doing interviews with different types of businesses and business models, and it's interesting how they market. And though a lot of it is the same, there are some components that are different or just haven't been discovered by the mainstream marketing world. I learned so much talking to people like you, the photographers, the creatives. I learned so much talking to musicians, just how to think out of the box and come at your marketing from a different perspective. So there is a lot to be said about branching out and studying and listening to and looking into other forms of business and how they do market online.
Definitely. I mean, that's what I get so passionate about is, I love reading books and studying other industries in order to bring those parts that we feel like, that I feel is missing from my industry and bringing it, because I really do think there is, as you said, there's a lot of common denominators when it comes to marketing. But at the end of the day, I mean, we now all live in the connection economy. People don't click, it's people who click links, not computers. So, even if we're talking about PPC or whether you B2B or B2C, whatever type of business model you're in, at the end of the day, we have to appeal to people. So and people are emotionally driven. And that's what I'm finding, the more I read and the more I study, is that it's still even in a very sort of logical business, people are still driven by their emotions. So it's like, how do you touch on that? How do you get people to listen? And it's all about, standing out in a really busy, saturated economy.
Yeah, I'm laughing because my last guest that just came out last Wednesday, Brian Kramer, who wrote H2H, or human to human. There is no more B2C. There is no more B2B. And he has this saying, it's a phrase that he uses, is delightfully disruptive. And that's what we have to learn to be, because there are people behind those clicks and those impressions and all of those ads. And we are dealing with another human being when you boil it right down.
Definitely. So it's about, how do you appeal? And also, I'm sure you'd find that, people now, we're so bombarded by things out there that you're not going to just believe the first thing you hear, hook, line, and sinker. People tend to be more skeptical. So you have to, work much harder to break through the noise. And it's almost like, remember the couple of years ago we started to see product placement in TV commercial, or in TV shows and sitcoms and things, like you see the Apple computer pop up and you see the Coca-Cola, like the American Idol with, their cups. And it's kind of like subtle marketing. And I think it's almost like, and when I teach my students, I call it the wooing. You got to think of marketing like you're dating. You wouldn't just go up to some girl in a bar and go, "Hey, honey, you want to get married?" No, weirdo, get away from me. That's freaky, And that's how a lot of us approach our marketing with our businesses. Here I am. Here's my business card. Here's my price sheet. Book me. And it's like, first of all, I don't know you. You're standing way too close. Can you give me some space, please? Let me figure out who you are first. And then when I'm ready, I'll approach you. So I like to take it through almost like a dating process. First we've got to, get a little flirting, get them to like what they see. And then, you start to do the wooing, and then you start to start the conversation, and then you start to ask them on a date, and then eventually you can ask them to marry you, and then they'll give you the keys to the house. But it's all part of the process of getting them to know, like, and trust you. So, yeah.
Yeah, you took the word know, like, and trust. I know you were alluding to that. And that is so true, more so even today. There's so much noise. And, yeah, we just have to take our time. And that's kind of what prompted me. I worked in agencies most of my internet marketing career to pay the bills. And it's push marketing, even though it is kind of direct response when because I do use AdWords. And people are looking for you, but it's, it's how you position yourself as to what is going to ingratiate you to the searcher or to your prospective client. Absolutely. Love it.
Definitely.
So tell me about just a little bit about present day, maybe a day in the life. Is the new website, is the Capture School ready to go? You're still putting the finishing touches on that. Now, where are you putting most of your time today?
Well, basically, this week my 3-year-old is now no longer in preschool, so I have to kind of like, I say I do 40 hours of work in 20 hours. I work at a lightning pace. So when it's like ready, set, go, wherever I can grab bits of time, trying to be a mommy in between, and, getting ready for the podcast this morning. My son forgot his lunch, so I had to dash to the school and then come back and get, So for me, it's kind of a little crazy, always trying to do things, in little bit pieces. And but I find, I've been able to give myself the life balance that I want by learning to say no. And it was really hard at the beginning because before I had my third child, I had obviously a big gap between, first, second, and the third one. And at that stage, my business was really, was going well. I had people employed that were working in my studio, and eventually found that, as things grew and my life situation changed, I had to adjust the way that I do things. And I just find that, as business owners as well, we evolve with time, and we can't feel like, okay, if one thing worked now and it doesn't work anymore, that it's a failure. And this is something I find a lot with, especially with creatives, as we kind of take it personally. Like if we're almost like we don't know what success looks like because we look at someone else's business and we think, well, look at that person. They've got like 6 employees and they've got like, 200,000 turnover a year. But that's great for them if it works for them.
Sure.
And that's what I find as well, what I'm passionate about helping people work through, that is finding what's best for them in that situation, in that time. And so I'm all about efficiency and, if it doesn't fit into my little acronym, what I call the SAD to GLAD approach, which is systemize, automate, and delegate. If it doesn't fit in any of those, I don't do it.
I love that. And I was going to say, my next question was your mindset and just a personal note on rituals for productivity. So would you repeat that acronym again? It's SAD and it's systemized, automate, or delegate?
Yes. So you want to go from a SAD to a GLAD approach. You have to systemize, automate, and delegate. So the only way that I could keep myself sane and on target is to make sure that I have systems for everything that's repeatable, automate things that, that I would do more than once, like for instance, autoresponders by email, and delegate. Like if I can't do things myself and can't fit it in the time that I have available, I'll delegate. So it's like an example would be systemizing the way when I interview guests. Like I have my online system that sends automatic emails at certain times, helps them prepare, so I don't have to be rushing around trying to find information about guests, before an interview or before a client comes to see me for a photo session. Automating, as I mentioned, is the email responders or sending out things, birthday cards. And then delegating, like about 4 years ago, I gave up my photo retouching to a girl who I still work with today. And, something that I feel that I don't need to do. If it's not making me money or bringing me closer to finding new business, it's not something I can afford to do myself.
Love that.
So, yeah.
I love that quote.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing is it's like, for instance, especially us working moms, we have this constant working mother's guilt. Now, it's like when you're working, you feel guilty, you're not with your kids. And then when you're with the kids, you feel guilty about the work and the never-ending to-do list that never ends. And especially with clients or businesses that are service-based or time for trade, which are like photographers, consultants. Whenever you're selling your time for money, your time is money. So things like cleaning my house is not a good use of my time. I'd rather pay someone $20 an hour to clean my house while I can make potentially $200 an hour in revenue than me spending my hourly rate doing that. And, like retouching was another thing, or, just simple things that you would think, oh, I can't afford to pay someone to do this. when you break it down and you work out how much you're worth and what your value is in terms of clients, you can't afford not to delegate.
Touche.
So yeah, that's kind of my approach. I'm all about, okay, get rid of it, either say no or clean out and, just streamline. So you can have your sanity back because, I'm sure you can agree that when times get busy and you feel like you're just overwhelmed, you can't be creative and you can't be effective. So
absolutely, totally agree. Fantastic. So mindset. Let's talk about the bedstand in the 6 books. Who are you reading right now? Who do you like to read? Do you have any favorite author or?
Well, I can tell you, I have a few. Of course, I finished reading Simon Sinek's Start With Why, which is great. I love The War of Art. I have Sally Hogshead's Fascinate book that I'm actually listening on audio. What was the other one? I have a lot of them. It's funny is I'll buy them on audio, and if I like them, I'll go and buy the hard copy. Then I'll go through it again and then make highlighted notes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some things I find good. Some things I find, I'll get lots of tips from them, and I'll go back and do them again. Like 2 other books I recently read were Make Your Idea Matter by Bernadette Jiwa. And what was the other one? Drunk Tank Pink was also quite interesting. I think it was Adam Elter. I have a whole slew of books. I'm always, reading them in bits and pieces. And of course, things like Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In was pretty interesting to me too. So yeah, we go on vacation. I cannot read a novel. I have to read a business book. I feel like it's a waste of my time unless I'm learning something.
I feel the same way, and every person I bring on the podcast is the same. Every successful entrepreneur, creative, and a lot of the same authors come up, especially Simon Sinek and Stephen Pressfield.
I almost feel it's like a cliche now when you speak to people, but it's so relevant, And of course, like Seth Godin is a good one, and
yep.
Even like one you might like as well is Business Brilliant by Louis Schiff. That was a really cool one. And Contagious by Jonah Berger. That was a really nice way of thinking of why people react the way they do, how to make ideas stick, things like that. So
cool. Yeah, I'm writing this stuff down. Thank you very much.
No problem. I'll send you a link to my list.
Yes. Yeah, I would love to have it. All right. So cool. Tell us now. Let's just jump back into the nuts and bolts. Like I said, our listeners are creatives, they're consultants, they're small business owners. What would be, I find sometimes a lot of our folks are having trouble getting traffic, finding the right audience. What is the best advice, if you could succinctly tell us, to finding our best targeted audience and how to approach them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. This is something I've learned in the businesses that I've run, that it's been evolved over time. I mean, of course, a few years ago it was all about keyword research. Got to have the right keywords, got to have the right meta tags. Then it was all about links. How can you get people to link to you? And then, of course, every time Google does an update, like the Panda update, everyone has a freak out because it's like, oh, I've got to change everything. At the end of the day, what I found is if you're trying to be all things to all people, you'll drive yourself batty. Mm-hmm. And something that I like to, and it's something I've learned by my own mistakes in my businesses, just because I could doesn't mean I should. And I've learned that it's part of the whole saying no is also really honing down your niche market and getting really specific about your client avatar. Because I think a lot of us think, I want to be an online marketer, so I'm just going to go blast everything wherever I can get my name out there. And sometimes it's less effective that way. So what I feel is, you have to be very specific about your client avatar, because if you are very broad range, you'll appeal to no one. So really being specific about even whether it's male or female, an age group, it's almost like the old demographics, but you got to think even further than that. Like if you put yourself in the shoes of someone looking at your website or your business, it's all got to be about user interaction, how does this make it easier for the user? Like I always take the example, if I'm going to shop at the mall and I'm looking for a pair of black pumps, for instance, black high heel shoes, I'm not even going to go into the store that's like for Nike tennis shoes or the baby store that sells children's clothing. If I'm looking for black pumps, I'm going to block out any other store that doesn't service my needs, and I'm going to start to drill down exactly the type of style, whether it's a Nordstrom or a Target or, whatever kind of brand or price range I'm looking at. Mm-hmm. And I think if we think of it like our audience or our potential clients are walking down the hallway of a store, how would we appeal to them. And of course, it's okay not to be everybody's cup of tea. It's fine to say, okay, maybe I'm not a good fit for you, and maybe you're better served somewhere else. I mean, even in my husband's online business, he's learned that certain clientele that don't have a certain budget to work with don't enable him to do a really good job. So it's a matter of coming to peace about the fact that you can't appeal to everybody, but looking at it from like a red velvet rope. Who you're going to let into your business? Do you know that as clients can you thrill and really make happy? Because who really wants to have a bad experience with the client who goes away unhappy, right? It's not good for business.
No, it's not good for your reputation either, or future business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's what I find. And a lot of people are like, well, why are we spending so much time trying to figure out our target market? I kind of know, like, say, for photographers, I know I want to be a wedding photographer. Like, why do we have to be so specific? Well, there's certain styles of wedding photography. You can have more a photojournalistic approach, or you can have more of a traditional approach. Do you like to use a lot of external flashes? Do you like more natural light? Do you like, even down to the type of lenses they use gives their work a different feel. And everybody has a different story they want to tell. And it's a matter of being that specific in order to find. So even from an online perspective, and I've done this myself. I've wasted so much money on, click ads, trying to spend money on trying to find, drive traffic to a website. But unless I know what those target market is and what the keyword search terms are, I'm kind of like wasting my money. Or like Facebook ads is another one. I've also wasted so much money on that, trying to just get anybody within a radius of, say, 100 miles, to try to click on an ad for photography special. I just don't think that's effective anymore. It's almost like it's got to be you talking straight to them.
Yes.
Like sort of like the dog whistle, that when they hear it, it immediately perks up their ears and they know, okay, this is for me. This is who I need to speak to.
Yeah. And I think you need to, and once you start with small wins, then you need to reverse engineer that and see what those people, find out what those people are all about.
Exactly, yeah, and it's really getting deep into the mindset. Like, I even noticed, like, I'm trying to be more aware of how I react to things online. Like, even if you're going down an Instagram feed, I mean, you know how quickly you can scroll down, even Facebook on your mobile phone.
Sure, where do you stop?
Yeah, it's like just go ring, 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 ring. Unless something really stands out, yep. You're not even going to give it not even a quarter second consideration. So it's almost like you've got to make sure that everything from your brand to the way your brand colors, the way you speak, the way your website's laid out, and so the message comes across and it resonates with the right people.
Yeah, and just listening to this, and I'm just going to flip this on its head for a minute, because what we just said, it just requires an enormous amount of time and research and attention to detail, but you have to start somewhere. So without painting too broad strokes, where do we start? Even someone that doesn't even have an audience, do you research the competition? Do you send out surveys? Like, how do you start to start to build this dossier of?
Well, that's the thing is, the sad truth is we have to work 10 times harder than we used to before. We really do. Before it would take maybe 4 or 5 times for people to hear your message, for them to react. Now they say it's 10 or 12 times. I mean, for me, in developing the content for my capture school, and of course, me being the perfectionist, I did a soft launch and I'm still tweaking it because I really feel like I really want this to work for people. And I did everything from, did a test launch, I did surveys, I called people and asked them what their struggles with, everything from doing my Mimika TV interviews, trying to hear what people are saying and what their reaction is, everything from the comments, or I'd post something on Facebook and, try to get reactions from that and see what people would say, go on forums or groups and, hear what the conversation is doing, reading books. It does take a lot of work. And I must say, if I look back, probably it's close to 2 years since I've been trying to hone in my right market of who I'm going to deliver this content to. And it took me twice as long as I thought it would. And the frustrating thing is it's still not 100% there, but what I've realized is it's always evolving. It's always a work in progress because you have to keep your ear to the ground. We can't afford to do the old school of put a shingle out the front of the business and hope everyone driving by is going to love to come in and see you.
Absolutely. If you look if you listen to my introductory podcast, episode 1, we can no longer hang a shingle out there. If you build it, they will come. I said,
exactly. That doesn't work anymore.
Not
That's
anymore.
the old British coming out,
Yeah.
And it just, even from when I started in photography, I went back to night school, and we lived in the city of York, which is a really old Roman town, which has, history dating back to 600 BC. And, what I found is that even though it was a smaller town, and when I first started to get into photography, there was maybe 6 or 10 of us wedding photographers. That by the time I left, when we moved from York to America, there were probably at least 25 wedding photographers there. But then when I moved from, the UK to the USA, it was 2,000 people within the state. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like competition on steroids. And I realized I had to up my game, that, the industry is different, the pace is different. But no matter what country you're in or what culture you're in, the end of the day, we still have to appeal to what people want and need and like. So, for a bride getting married, she's going to have a certain style. We just need to watch some of these reality shows with, the bridezillas and even the dress, say yes to the dress kind of things. They're very specific about what they like. And I know that, what kind of client fits, especially if you're a consultative type of client, you need to know what their pain points are. And again, that's another part that I always press on in teaching people, is understanding what really pains your client. So whether, you're a service or a product, you watch the likes of Shark Tank. Why develop these products? You think surely someone's thought of this before, but they've thought of another pain point that this product perhaps, alleviates.
A different application. Different application, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, that kind of idea.
I love it. So tell me, all of this that you've just discussed with us, finding your target market, fine-tuning, the long tail keyword phrase type of capturing, niching down. Do you teach all of this within the Capture School?
Yes, we do. And as an example, say, for instance, if someone wants to find out what their target market is, especially someone starting a business, it is really hard to know straight off the bat, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of trial and error. And that's why I sometimes think, you've got to embrace failure. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Before Capture School, I had it branded under a different name, it was called Photography Profit Zoom. And to me, just didn't feel right, the whole brand awareness. Mm-hmm. And the structure of it was more like a 6-week boot camp style. But for what I feel and what I want to help people with is I want to be more involved in helping them really dig a bit deeper. So, and that's why I've taken what I did the first time, and for me, it didn't feel very successful, but there were people who learned from that, and I've developed it along the way. So it's been a whole journey of adding things, tweaking things, trying things, and you won't really know until you take that first step. And believe me, the first time, even when I launched my first Mimika TV, I look back and I go, oh my gosh, that was so ugly. The lighting was bad. The connection was bad, and it was way too long. People must have been yawning by halfway through. So, and even then, it's sometimes you just got to put it out there and don't wait for perfection. 90% is better than 100% of nothing, right? So
that's in the words of Seth Godin, you have to ship.
Exactly. You got to ship. And sometimes you think, oh, well, maybe let me just quickly tweak this. It's like the blog post. I don't know how many blog posts I've written in draft mode that I've actually never published. And to me, I look back at those and go, oh, those would have been really good. But now it's kind of late. It's sort of like yesterday's news. That sometimes I feel just getting it out there, putting it out there. And this is another thing from creatives. We don't like the criticism, right? Because our art is almost like it's part of us. And it's almost feels like a personal attack when someone doesn't like something. Sure. And I think that's the differences I've found with creatives and sort of more business-minded people, is they can separate the two, the business from the personal. But it is for a photographer and an artist, it's something that you're creating out of your own heart. It's something your mind's eye that you've developed from nothing. That it is your baby, and no one wants to be told their baby's ugly, right?
Spot on, absolutely. I love it.
So exactly. I'm all full of analogies, but we could talk here all day.
We definitely could, but I'm respectful of your time, and I want to just wrap by asking you. Now we know what you have going on, so tell us specifically what we should do to find you, how we can find you, and the best way to do so.
Sure, yes. Well, as I said, you can find me on my website, which is mimikacooney.com. And Mimika is Mimika. And Cooney, I always say you remember it like George Clooney without the L. The girls love that. And I have some great resources on there. I'm always adding new ones and updating them. At the moment, I have a ebook called Modern Marketing, which helps you think outside the box. Collecting all the ideas that I've picked up from things I've learned, and just to help people start to think a little differently. And definitely every week on my website, we goes live is a new Mimika TV interview, which is usually a 30-minute interview with a creative-minded, successful business owner. And I've had everything from photographers to branding strategists, internet marketing specialists, and a whole lot more coming up in the new season. And of course, I'm everywhere on social media. Mimika Cooney Fans is on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Pinterest. If you just search for my name, you definitely can find me there. And I'd love, people can connect with me and say hi. I'd love to connect with them online.
All right, and we will do so. And I'm going to keep in touch with you because I want to get back with you when your new book comes out. And
sure, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll remain friends now.
Of course, yes. I have to send you my list of books. I'll be like, oh, did you see this one? This is fabulous.
Cannot wait. Awesome. Well, Mimika, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time, and we will look for you, and we look forward to, wish you the best of luck with the Capture School. We look forward to being there.
Great. Thank you for listening. Thanks. Right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed our chat today with Mimika Cooney. Please visit Mimika at mimikacooney.com. That's MIMIKACOONEY.com or captureschool.com, her new website for learning for the creative. You can find the show notes and the highlights of this interview at bigvaluebigbusiness.com/episode 24. Or just go to bigvaluebigbusiness.com and type Mimika, that's MIMIKA, into the search box for easy access. Hey, while you're on the site, I would be extremely honored if you would sign up to become part of the Big Value Big Business family. You will receive via email weekly updates and highlights on every new podcast that I launch. And you can then decide if you want to download each new episode and have a listen. Also, when you do sign up at bigvaluebigbusiness.com, you will also get this really cool free gift. I have put together an awesome online business toolbox that has a ton of free internet tools and resources, all designed to help you build and grow your online business. So head on over to bigvaluebigbusiness.com and sign up right at the top of the website. And also, did you know you can listen to the show on iTunes? If you listen with your iPod or iPhone, it would be awesome if you would subscribe to the show on iTunes. And as always, a great review on iTunes is much, much appreciated. And hey, just so you know, when you do leave a review on iTunes, it puts the podcast in front of a heck of a lot more people. It really helps us out. So I do appreciate it. Please subscribe. And lastly, as always, I really hope we brought some big value into your day today. You take care, and I'll be talking to you again real soon.
Thanks for listening to the Big Value Big Business Podcast at www.bigvaluebigbusiness.com.